So good evening if you're joining us on YouTube, and of course good evening to everybody who's with us on Zoom. So yes, the plan this evening is that we're going to concentrate on part one, and as well as looking at the chorales, actually this evening we're going to look at the choruses. And of course, actually there's one very meaty, substantial chorus in part one, and then these a couple of smaller choruses along the way as you kind of urge the action along in the St John Passion. And so we'll see how we get on. I imagine we'll spend a good deal of time on the prologue, the very first chorus, and we will see whether we how much of the other choruses we get to visit as well, alongside maybe one or two chorales in the mix there. So that's the plan for this evening. But first of all, we're going to get ourselves warmed up. I'm hoping you can all hear me okay and hear the piano okay. So to begin with, you're just going to gently warm the voice up and think about making a good, lovely, resonant sound in the head. And I'd just like to sing, please, all the way down the scale, 3 and hum. Good. This time I'd like to sing a lovely open R vowel. Think about the lovely space that you get above your head as you sing that R. 3 and R. Good. We're going to move a little now, please. Mama, 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 mama. Good. Well, we've said hello to Mama, so let's da-da this time, please. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. In truth, it's going to be a much brighter vowel. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. For contrast, we're now going to sing ta-ta-ta-ta instead. So now moving from that voiced D to the unvoiced T. Ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta. My encouragement to you is to not confuse your voiced consonant and your unvoiced consonant. So da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta. So we're going to sing da 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 for one triplet, and then ta 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 for another triplet. So we'll alternate between the two. So we now have da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da da ta. All the very best. Let's try that again. Da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta 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 da 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 ta. And hopefully you'll have really noticed that the amount of breath that goes through the t is vastly different to the da 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 da. It's so lovely and dry. And I'm going to come back to that later on, but I just want to place that in your mind now. A final exercise this evening. Just like to sing, please. Okay, lovely. Right. So I mentioned that we're going to start with the first movement of St. John Passion, which is Mark number 1, chorus, the prologue. But before we start, I just thought it was just worth mentioning, particularly now that we're looking at the first movement. Just a couple of things just to place in your mind. That first thing is just to bear in mind that this was written in the first year of Bach's position in Leipzig. And a position which, of course, that we now know, of which he made a great success. And his success in that can be of no doubt. But it's worth bearing in mind that his appointment, those who were making the appointment wanted Telemann. And the contract negotiations fell through or something or other. And so that didn't happen. And then they seemed to offer the job to very many other composers before settling on Bach. Settling to the point of which the hiring committee is said to have even used the word mediocre when describing Bach, which is amazing to think now, isn't it? So in that context, we then have St. John Passion being written in his first year in post. And up until that point, on Good Friday, the scriptures would have been sung in a really simple setting, in that kind of plain chant style. And then, actually, Bach's predecessor had just kind of played around with a few ideas of making it slightly more theatrical. But of course, Bach took it to a whole new level, as we find in St. John Passion. And it's worth just thinking about the impact that would have made to the congregation who were going to the services. There's a couple of really interesting quotes I just thought I'd share with you of how it really polarised the congregants who were gathering for these passions. Now we don't know whether these are actually written in direct reference to St. John or St. Matthew Passion, but were written at the time in reference to the operatic passions that were attracting large congregations. So on one hand, folks were encouraged by it. Gottfried Ephraim Scheibel spoke about how wonderful it was to see so many in the church, and that surely none of them would have been there in such numbers just because of the preacher, but rather presumably because of the music. And then goes on to say, I marvelled how diligently people listened and how devoutly they sang along. It was the moving music that contributed the most to this, and even though the service lasted more than 4 hours, everyone stayed until it was over. So you kind of got that on one hand. On the other hand, you've got this chap called Christian Gerber, speaks in a rather hostile manner about these dramatic passion tellings or settings. And he is quoted as saying, "In the pew of a noble family in church, many ministers and noble ladies were present and sang the first passion hymn from their books with great devotion. But when this theatrical music commenced, all these people were filled with the greatest amazement, looked at one another and said, 'May God preserve us, children.' It's as if a person were at the opera, or, probably even worse, the theatre." Everyone thoroughly disapproved of the music and registered justified complaints about it. But of course, there were also such spirits as take pleasure in such vain aberrations, especially if they are of a sanguine nature and are given to voluptuousness. This is fantastic, isn't it? So that's the kind of setting and the response that that the congregation would have had when this work was first performed. And what an amazing opening bit of music. And the final thing I was just going to say before we actually dive into the music is that it's worth just bearing in mind that it's written in G minor. And now Bach would have been really aware of this, of the relationship between keys and their kind of the drama and emotional character. There was this doctrine of Affektenlehre, the doctrine of emotions that assigned specific character to each key, and it was really well established. So C major was majestic, D major jubilant, E flat regal, F major pastoral, and then C minor was the key of pathos, D minor was diabolical, so relating to the Dies Irae, so that kind of that sense of the Last Judgment. E minor for mourning, so we get that in St Matthew Passion, don't we, for the opening there. F minor for passion, and then G minor, as we experience here, representing despair. With our kind of modern ear, whenever we hear a minor key, we're so used to all of that bad education of music teachers going, there's a major key, that sounds happy, doesn't it? Happy, yeah. Now, listen, this sounds sad. And the playing as we hear a minor key, and of course that's has really just been taught. And actually, in the Baroque period, a minor key could also be dreadfully joyous, and we see that in various different works. So, but here, when Bach writes in this G minor, it's really representing despair. And so, as we look at the music here, we can see that the text in front of us is pretty sparse. Lord, 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 Lord and Master, Lord, 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 Lord and Master, in all lands the gathering nations hail thee. Which on one hand could sound rather joyous, couldn't it? But bearing in mind Bach's sensibilities around key and emotion, we know that this is trying to represent despair. And so when we're singing Lord, 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 then actually we're singing that with an element of despair. So there is my long prologue before we start our work, but I hope that just kind of sets into place what we're singing and why socially and musically what we're doing is really quite important and has got a lot of depth to it. So my suggestion is we're going to sing through part one and have a bit of a read, not the whole of part one, the movement one, and then we'll dive into a bit more depth of it as we go. So we'll play the whole of the introduction to start with. Then, of course, we have the capo, which we will do now, just as opportunity to read this again together. Okay. Right, let me just stop this a moment.
Jesus went.
Okay. Excellent. Right, let's have a little look over a couple of moments. Just bear with me a second. Okay, there we go. So, we're going to have a look right at the very beginning of the work and work through together. Let's just let it flash before your eyes as we go back to the very start. So your opening chords. As you sing this, I just really encourage you to think about the length of that crotchet, and that the length of that crotchet through which your vowel sounds. So tenors, Lord, 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 and aim for. I'd always much prefer, as I mentioned, the warm-up, the difference between the dry D, the voiced consonant that a D is, versus the unvoiced consonant of a T. And so I'd always much rather hear Lord than Lort, because that's not a word, but Lord. And so in many ways, you're really thinking about Lord being almost like it's spelt Lord, and depending on your preference here, that it might be spelt UH or ER, Lord, but the is very short. So for altos, it's an exercise. We'll just sing together on your parts. But I'd like you to add on, instead of the crotchet rest, I'd like you to sing a full crotchet on the however you might want to spell the afterwards. So if it was an alto, I'd sing this: Lord, Lord, Lord. Okay. So wherever you are, just give that a go. 3, 4. Lord, Lord, Lord. One more time. 3, 4. Lord, Lord, of the length of your duh. So Lord, 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 Lord. Okay, so let's just try this together. So soprano, alto, tenor and bass. 3 and Lord, Lord, Lord. Now finally we're going to halve it again. So it's feeling very short. Lord, Lord, Lord. Okay. 3 and Lord, Lord, Lord. And if we aim towards that, it'll really ensure that we are singing Lord and not Lort. And from there on, let's have a look at sopranos, just your first bit of melisma here. Master. Sing that together, sopranos. And master. Altos. And and together again. Master. Tenors and Master, Lord and Master. Really feels on a page turn, as we have it here, that it's wanting to lead up to the G, and of course it doesn't do that. Master, Lord and Master. This really means you need quite careful placement on the D. Master, Lord and Master. It can be a bit scrappy if you're not careful. Basses, same moment, and Master, Lord and Master. Good. And basses, as you arrive on that low G, think about the weight being on the ma and not the ter. Master, Master. So you have that feminine ending. Let's put all of that into practice so far. Let me just try and jump over a bit of the introduction. Two bars. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay. Now you may have noticed there in the recording, which is a lovely recording, but just here, the semiquavers all hung together very nicely. But then when we have the run of quavers, it's easy for that to then get behind. We can kind of relax. And as you will have heard on that recording, then by the time you arrive on this hail here, you're already behind, and then it's difficult to catch up. So really keep on the conveyor belt. Ba 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 bum 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 bum. So there's no sense of elongating those quavers, that they really do keep pulse well. Sopranos, let's have a look at figure A. Lord and 1. Lord and more. And really, it's very natural, isn't it, for our breath here to slow us down when you've had that lovely long run there, sopranos. You get to the ter of master, need to take a decent breath, but just think about the length of that ter. Ensure you've got time to breathe, and bearing in mind that really you're just having a little catch-up breath, enough to get you through 2 more beats before you've then got the quaver rest in which you can breathe properly again. So that's your danger point with getting behind there. Altos, Lord and 1. Good, and I beg your pardon that there's F sharps on the Gathering Nations, which I wildly missed. I'm sorry about that. Altos, let's read that again, shall we? Lord and 1. Tennis, let's look at the same moment for you. And 1. So let's just look at this final phrase. Let's sing from Hail, please, tenors. One and. Not necessarily where we might expect it to go. Basses, same exercise for you, please. Lord, figure A and 1. It's great fun, isn't it? You're all over the place. It was wonderful. Let's sing from Hail, top of page 5, please, basses. And good. Now going into that, from In All Lands the Gathering Nations, and 1. Good, and of course you're going to stick like glue to that pulse there. Bass is really underpinning that sense of pulse for us, particularly in this moment, the 3rd and 4th of figure A. As we arrive on that in the 4th after A, really rock solid with your pulse there. Let's put all of that together so far. Here's hopefully just a couple of bars going in. Okay, let's stop there a moment. Now this long section of building towards the hail. So from figure D, a master in all lands, the gathering nations, in all lands, the gathering nations, in all lands, the gathering nations, hail thee, and that's where we're aiming for. So we want to err on the side of that's where that sense of build towards the hail thee. so that the momentum is building all through this. It's bubbling away and bubbling away and bubbling away until sopranos, altos, and tenors arrive with the Hail Thee, and then the repetition of the Hail Thee before eventually united on singing Lord together through that. Sopranos, let's just have a look then. Second of D and 1. Beg your pardon. Let's go once more, please. And 1. Okay. So you can really got that real sense of build throughout there, haven't you? With the as we rotate from flip from singing the straight quavers to then these semi-quaver runs, building again. In all lands, the gathering nations have the melisma, and then a bit off it builds. So eventually, this final nations leading into the Hail Thee. So sopranos really have in mind as you're singing, in all lands the gathering nations hail thee, building through there. Altos, let's pick up please in all lands, bang on, well, the second beat of figure D, and 1. Good, thank you. Tenors, let's do the same thing going into the second of D. 2, 3. And finally, basses, let's read together. This is going into the third of D. 2, 3. Okay. So with that in mind and that sense of growth through this section, I say growth, really thinking about the destination of where we're headed. Let's just pick up and see if we can pick up at figure D. Let me see if we can find that quickly. There we go. Oh, that was quicker to find than I thought. So here's just running into figure D. Just picking up on your entries following figure D, please. energy. Good. Now, we're going to leave that there for now. We may well revisit that movement and look at the second half, which where we've read a few times but haven't really done any note bashing or further notes on that. But for this evening, we're just going to leave that movement there for now, as I'd really like to do. Just have a look at these couple of choruses here. So number 3 and number 5. Which is really these moments where the chorus just drives on the action. They're so fleeting and so short, but have great impact. You'll notice here. Number 3 starts in G minor. Then we have the recit in between, which then takes us G minor again, as it then building through throughout. So let's just sing number 3. We'll hear the recit of number 4, and then we'll sing number 5 together as well as we read this. So I'm just going to play the end of the second movement.
Unto them whom seeking, they answered him, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus saith unto them, I am he. Judas also, which betrayed him, was standing with them. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. Then asked he them again, whom seeking? And they said, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered.
And so it's gone in a flash, isn't it? Okay, thank you. It's really gone in a flash. The last all of 9 seconds, 10 seconds or so. And they're gone, but the impact of them is so great. Sopranos, Jesus, Jesus. Let's just read this together then, sopranos. And 1, Jesus, Jesus. Okay, altos, same moment. And 1, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. And finally basses. And 1. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. You've got to be quite gymnastic here, basses. Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth. So you can ensure that 7th is good and clean. Let's sing together then. This is the end of the previous bit of recit.
Seeking, they answered him,
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus saith unto them, I am he.
Just going to jump to the end of this recit.
Judas also, which betrayed him, and asked he them again, whom seeking? And they said,
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth.
Okay, so let's just look at the slight changes, slight change here. As we're now in really kind of sitting in that kind of C minor place to start with. Sopranos, let's read this together. And 1. Okay. Altos, same thing. And 1. Good and agile there, altos. Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, tenors. And 1. Once again. And 1. I spoke about the agile basses earlier on. Now here, tenors, this major 7th, I do beg your pardon, jumping this awfully large jump for you here. It's almost brought back memories, or rather nightmares, of second year vocal and operatic studies technical exams, where you were suddenly challenged to be singing various different arpeggios, and that kind of brings back shudders, really, as I think back to those moments. Basses. And 1. Okay, thank you. We're going to sing from going into movement 3 one final time.
Unto them, whom seeking, they answered him,
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus saith unto them, I am he. Judas also, which betrayed him, was standing with them. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. Then asked he them again, Whom seek ye? And they said,
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus
And
answered,
so on. Okay, thank you. And in the final few minutes, let's just revisit these few chorales. So, in fact, as we will sing the chorus of number 5, Jesus of Nazareth, one last time, and then I'll let the recit play, and we'll go straight into the chorale "O Mighty Love" that we have previously looked at. Right, let's give us a chance to get into it.
Whom seek ye? And they said,
Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way.
I'm just going to fast forward to the end of this recit.
Father hath given me, shall I not drink the cup which my Father hath given me?
Thank you, good. And here's just the very end of the number 14, as we then sing 15 together.
Answered him, if I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why smitest thou me?
And to close our time together this evening, I'm just going to jump over to 17 and we'll look at the hush, our soloist. I'm just going to play the end of 19. This last a little bit of recit going into number 20 to see us on our way. So this is the very end of part 1.
Since the southern hath been on, it is Lord. Since the southern hath been on, it is Lord.
Lovely, thank you. Wonderful. Well, it's been lovely to see you all this evening. Thank you so much for for being here, and it's always good seeing your faces singing, albeit that I can't hear you. But I'm looking forward to that day when it may come, when I get to hear your lovely voices as well as see your lovely faces. So thank you all so much, and I'll very much look forward to seeing you next week. And just remind me, I think we've got 2 more weeks together before your usual break. Is that right?
2.
No, it might be 3 more.
3 more weeks. Okay.
3.
3, very good, excellent. Yeah, I thought I'd better say that aloud and double check aloud, but that's great. So much more to look forward to. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really useful.
Bye.
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 All these other faces going on. Bye.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed it, Kathy.
Yes, that was lovely. Yes.
Good.
It's a long time since we've been able to do a good sing-along.
That's great. Good to have you with us.
Yes, I enjoyed that. It was really nice. Obviously, it will be far superior when people are in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Nice when we meet up.
are you hoping to sort of start having in-person sort of rehearsals from June? Is that the plan?
We're hoping it. I mean, it's sounding very promising what was on the news today.
Yeah.
So one has to hope that yes. Yeah, I'll let you know well, you'll pick it.
Of course.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Yes, I'll keep you up to date with it.
Of course, the advantage of us doing it this way is I can sing along to all the other parts, including the bass.
Yes.
Pretend I can sing the parts without anybody knowing.
Yes, quite. Yeah. I think a few of us have been doing that.
Yeah, because if you do that when you're face to face, it's quite annoying, isn't it? But if you're learning something, it's quite lovely to look at the other parts as well. So that's that's lovely. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you, Kathy. It's great. Great to see you.
Have a nice rest of the week, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That was good.
Yes, excellent.
I should have explained